Hi, my name's Bryan Boam. I'm CEO of Network Consulting Services Incorporated.
And hi, I'm Bryan Hadzik. I'm the CTO of NCSI.
We'd like to welcome you to our video series on effective web security that starts outside the perimeter of your network. What we want to discuss over this series is why it is that here we are in 2021 and we're still suffering the same types of cybersecurity attacks that we did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, etc. With all of the investment that we've made in technology and all the advancements we've had in security, why is it that every day, every week, we still see in the news there's a new data loss, there's a new attack, there's a new ransomware, there's something that happens to us that is surpassing all of our security that we've invested in? Keep in mind, we have spent a lot of money to try to stop this problem. Why do we still have it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And if you really break it down, you look at what we've done with security over the past, 25 or 30 years. We've created this concept of a perimeter. Things like firewalls have brought that kind of concept to us that we said, we're going to draw a line in the sand, or we're going to build a wall, and we're going to say, everything on the outside is bad, everything on the inside is good. And that's been a relatively firm perimeter that we've created there. And that's still a good thing. We need to still invest in that. But previously we've kind of said, well, that's everything to us. That's all of our technology that we're going to use to protect from the the good and the bad. And that's just not enough anymore. There's got to be a better way to help potentially even clean up that traffic further upstream, or make it easier to understand what kind of traffic is coming into the environment, right?
Sure, I think that's a great way to put it, because the problem that we have is we're trying to find that needle in the stack of needles, okay? We're getting so much attack, so much volume of information, so many things coming at us that we can't tell the good from the bad. They hit our perimeter, and the good stuff that comes in is just as noisy as the bad stuff that comes in. So part of the problem is we have to find an effective way to limit the number of security events that we're finding at the perimeter. So how do we do that? Well, let's look back in our history a little bit. Let's go way back to Old England. When the English lords wanted to secure their castles, they understood that if they could put high castle walls and archers and moats and drawbridges, they could keep the majority of the fight outside the castle walls so that they could have effective security inside the castle walls. Limit the amount of information that comes into your network. Limit the amount of traffic that's hitting your network that is already filtered out. We've already screened it. We've already cleaned it. So by the time it gets to our network, we're not fighting the same fights that we always have. So if we want to have effective web security, we've got to find a way to move that fight outside our perimeter.
Yeah, having all that extra noise, doesn't really help me effectively protect more. I want to have fewer alerts, fewer pieces of information, and just worry about that clean traffic.
Exactly. So over this webinar series, we're going to show you how to effectively handle this fight outside your network as far as we can. In this series today, the webinar we're showing today, we're going to talk about very specifically how to handle the Web Application Firewall, how to install it, how to configure it, how to use it, all of the things that are going to help you take that very first step on having effective web security outside your network. Should we get to it?
Let's go take a look.
All right. So first of all, let's define the problem. We're dealing with web application firewalls. We have web application firewalls right now. They've actually been around for a while. So what's the problem? Well, first let's look at it. The web application firewalls that we're dealing with right now, they're a little difficult to install, and they're even more difficult to configure and maintain. So if you even own a web application firewall right now, take a look at how much time and effort it's taking you to install it, configure it, and use it. Okay? Those logs we were talking about, probably getting flooded right now because the web application firewall on your premise is the first line of defense that you have for that web application security. Now look at the administrative costs. It's not just a matter of installing it and configuring it, but you have to use it. You have to tweak it. You have to look at the logs. You have to maintain it. You have to modify it. And it's all on premise. So administratively, you probably have human resources dedicated specifically to making sure this thing is functioning all the time. And third, probably one of the biggest problems is that the traditional firewall model isn't enough. Keep in mind, as we've mentioned over and over again, that's bringing the fight right to our backyard. If our existing on-premise web application firewall is the very first thing that sees that traffic, we have very little hope of success. We need to find a way, again, to make sure that all web application firewall traffic is being cleaned up and dealt with outside our network before it shows up. So I'm going to turn it over to Bryan Hadzik, and we're going to start seeing how do you pull this off.
Okay, let's talk about the traditional infrastructure that we had in place in order to protect our web servers. Here we have a web server, and that could be, on-premise or up in the cloud, something like that. We've created these traditional firewalls in place to sit in front of them, and then, we have different workstations and servers and so forth that are going to connect to it. So, the flow of traffic would be for a legitimate request, it's going to come in here into our firewall. Our firewall goes through its, its rules engine. Is this port allowed? Should it be able to connect over, and then sends that traffic to the actual web server itself. When we have some malicious traffic, let's say that malicious traffic is, a bot or, some kind of other undesirable traffic, the firewall now has the job of interacting with that. And some of that traffic it's actually going to allow in that would be still potentially malicious. The fundamental problem is that this is an HTTP connection. Our traditional firewalls are a little just bit more focused on understanding, kind of what the packets are, not necessarily doing a deep dive inside of that HTTP. So some things the firewall is going to have to take, some things the server is going to have to worry about and reject there. So this is the traditional model. This is how we're talking about having the fight inside of our perimeter and having to worry about it and have us manage it. What is what's the options? What can we do to fix this? That's where Imperva comes into play. We're going to be talking about the Imperva Web Application Firewall today. And it takes a different approach to protecting these web servers. So, what does that approach look like? What's going to be different? Well, first of all, what we're going to do is we're not going to have the traffic go directly from the end clients to our firewall or even to our web server on the back end. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a DNS request. So here's my website. I'm going to go and point the DNS for that up here to the Imperva servers. So now when I have a workstation out there or end client trying to connect, it's going to resolve that traffic up to the Imperva cloud. We're going to go through our rules engine there. We're going to say, hey, let's look at it from a DDoS perspective. Let's understand, the geo of where it's coming from. Let's identify, what the endpoint looks like and should it be allowed to communicate with us. Let's have that rules engine kick in there and then allow the clean traffic to come down through here to our firewall and to our end device. So now what happens is that malicious traffic that's going to come in, again, bot traffic or something that we don't want, we are going to stop it and block it right here. We don't have to bring it down into our ecosystem. Especially in the past, look at your firewall. Your firewall had to allow, kind of traffic from everywhere into it. Now what I can do is I can lock that firewall down to only accept the traffic coming in from the Imperva Web Application Firewall. So this is how we're going to take that fight outside of our perimeter. We're going to clean that traffic up outside and only let the clean traffic coming in. It's going to be a lot easier for us to understand what is inside of that traffic and analyze what's going on. So we've talked about how easy it is to change. We're just going to do a DNS change in order to be able to set this up. Let's go take a look at the console and see how easy it is to onboard this. All right, so here we are in the console. Let's go and walk through the process to onboard a website. It is very easy. I'm going to click on Add Website up here in the top. I'm going to put in my website. Virtrillo is my fake company I use to show this off, so I'm going to put in www.virtrillo.com there. What it's going to do is it's going to go and check the current status. So you can see it went and found the existing website, it found its IP address. What we're going to do is just click continue right here. It's going to go and give me some information about, do we want to do SSL? Do we want the SSL cert to be hosted directly by Imperva, or do we want to provide our own version of the certificate? In this case, I'm just going to skip it past it and go to just a normal website creation. What's going to happen here is it now asks me to change the DNS records. So right now, it normally talks directly to my web server, directly to those IP addresses. I'm going to go take this record down here at the bottom, and you can see what it's going to tell me to do is to create a CNAME. So I'm going to change the A record that is www, pointing to a CNAME of that. So over here, I have my DNS console. Whatever your DNS provider is, I'm going to go down here and find that A record. I'm going to simply change that over to a CNAME. You can see that IP address showing up in there. I'm going to paste that in and apply that. So that might take it a couple of minutes to actually recognize that that DNS change has been made. But as soon as I'm finished with that, it will recognize that, and it will actually even send me an email saying it has been completed. And so as soon as I'm done with that, and I feel that all the traffic is flowing through the system, I would be able to block the connections directly from the internet, and I can allow only the Imperva system to talk to it. So here I've now onboarded. I'm complete, but I could do other things like having multiple servers in here. Maybe I'm going to do load balancing, or I want to configure the web application firewall, or turn on different security features, or see what kind of hits and traffic I have associated with it. So it really was that easy to onboard the website.
Thank you for taking time to watch NCSI's video series on effective web security that starts outside the perimeter of your network. This is a 3-part series highlighting Web Application Firewall, Distributed Denial of Service or DDoS, and bot protection. If you have additional questions, please reach out to an NCSI representative at sales@ncsi.us or call 801-295-7555. Have a great day.